What is up, y'all? It's your boy Aniki coming at you with another review, this time for chapter 293 of My Hero Academia. A surprisingly polarizing chapter in my eyes, but that being said, we're gonna get right to it. Like I said last week, these go basically as a page-by-page breakdown, just so we can really dive into what the material is covering here. But we're gonna start off with Shindo being in the top 10 of the popularity polls because of the color page. He's got a bunch of fans that think he's cute. That's it. I don't agree with it. It's a waste of a slot, but it is what it is. Eye patch for Aizawa. Anyway, that's all that needs to be said about that. We don't need to spend much time. All right, we start the chapter immediately. Boom. Lemillion explains why he's there, how he traveled there. We finally get an explanation as to what happened with Mirio and Eri. We get confirmation that Eri was training her quirk on lizards. Now, here's something that I need to really have established here. Just because a quirk has complicated ramifications does not mean it's complicated to use. Or rather, I should say, to turn on and off. Here's the thing. I saw Caleb Cook describe this, and this is the only time I'm ever gonna hard disagree with the way Caleb Cook said something. Hopefully. But he described it as extreme precision and control. Here's kind of the reality of the situation, though. If Todoroki holds out his hand and just shoots out a stream of flames, we don't look at him and go, "Dang, wow, you have astounding precision and control because you can shoot out a torrent of flame and then stop shooting it." In the same way, if Eri is just touching Mirio, shooting a blast of rewind for more or less for a little while, and then she just stops shooting the rewind energy, this is like the equivalent of saying a person shouldn't be able to turn their quirk on and off after 2 months of deliberate attempts to turn their quirk on and off. Do you know how slow that would have to be? Like, the idea that she can't just turn her quirk on and back off after 2 months of direct intentional training, that actually you need to verify, you've seen her quirk before. And I know some people said they wanted to have a reaffirmation of Eri and Mirio's relationship, but the last couple of chapters that we had with them in, i.e. chapter 276, which was literally titled "You Cheated," where she was sitting there with All Might and no Mirio and a Smallhorn, which is how we knew, oh, guess what? She literally recently emptied out her entire stockpile, and it turned out it was literally yesterday. Think about that. Literally yesterday in the story, she released her stockpile of energy by going, here's a blast of rewind. Okay, I'm going to stop doing this now. And even if she didn't have the ability to just go, okay, I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to stop doing this, Aizawa was right there. He literally, do it, yeah, whatever. Because before anything could even get bad, he would be able to just stop it. Keep in mind also that she could have just sat there and done it for a while since she was used to using small amounts of energy. All you have to do is have her touch him and have a steady stream of energy going until she cannot touch him. That's realistically what happened. I don't know why this is the thing that was overcomplicated. I don't know why this is a thing that people feel like it wasn't explained well. Horikoshi trusted you to understand the mechanics of the quirk. He's shown it to you. He's explained to you how the quirk works. In fact, saying the phrase, "Oh, well, yeah, I know it works like that, but I just want it." No, that means Horikoshi didn't need to show you that. You just admitted you didn't need to see that because you understood it. Why are you complaining? So anyway, Eri happily does this because, as she directly states, this is why she's been training. Oh man. Also, I'm just going to point out that early in the series, Sun Eater directly stated, we should see the return of this hero. It was, Horikoshi didn't even, I can't even call that foreshadowing. He just straight up told you we're bringing Mirio back. And the word specifically soon was used to describe when Mirio would return. Think about that. Horikoshi had a character go, Eri's going to learn how to use her quirk and then going to bring you back, Mirio, and it's going to happen soon. Right there. Then he told you that they practiced her being able to turn her powers on and off with a lizard. And you can see that there was a tail cut off, and then she put it back on. Did you need a panel of the lizard's tail getting cut off? Is that what you needed? You didn't taking a scalpel, cutting off the lizard tail, her being like, yeah, and it's like, oh, look, the tail grew back. You didn't already get that from the visual storytelling? Come on now. Come on now. So, after we get the clarification on like Eri rewinding Mirio, giving him his quirk back, and him getting the information from Bubble Girl, all that, boom, we cut back to the current, and you have Mirio basically going, yeah, but it's not like I can actually just like one-shot all these guys, so I'm gonna need some help. And, you know, he switches back to the 10-10 aesthetic especially. We get a little bit of panel blur as we switch from perspectives on Mirio and the Bakugo. And Bakugo's, and then you have him talking about the explosions from Katsuki Bakugo Rising and how they were like nothing he had done before. He starts concentrating his mode, like it's this feeling of being close to death in total crisis. And he has that like little flashback to when he like made it a point to go save Deku, and then you just see one of the most beautiful explosion trails. All the Nomu that were in the area are now on Genus. Mirio cannot stop them all. And then you get one of the best spreads, possibly my favorite spread that Horikoshi has put out to date, actually. And it took me a while to like process why I loved this particular spread so much. And then there's one, just from an artistic standpoint, I realized that this actually kind of felt like some kind of Avengers collaboration, which it shouldn't, because, you know, they're all technically heroes. But then I thought about the fact that within the context of the story, we've done such a good job of distinguishing the big three of the UA from the Class 1A people and the pro heroes as their own separate groups and within the narrative of the hero side, that it kind of just feels like, oh yeah, we finally get to see the big three and 1A and the pro heroes all fighting side by side together, and it's not even a character combination we've ever thought of. You know, you got your speedster, you got, you know, Mirio flying like the Superman, the woman, it's great panel. It's like a Justice League Avengers whatever crossover special, and then this is where we get into one of the viral part of this chapter, the part of the chapter that was trending, the part of the chapter that like had people talking about dynamite and all kind of other stuff that didn't know whether or not like what this was going to be. And I was like, all right, I don't know if that's actually going to be his name anyway. But here's the thing. Bakugo reveals his hero named Genus, which we had all talked about. We knew was going to happen. We figured as soon as we had that Christmas party and he was like, nah, there's somebody I got to reveal it to first, we were going to get that Bakugo hero name when he got to meet Genus again. So as soon as Genus lands, as soon as Bakugo gets the chance, he goes in there. And one of the most important things also with this, Bakugo during that spread, his internal monologue isn't, I will kill you, Nomus. It's not, I'll defeat these Nomus. It's specifically the phrase, gotta save. Bakugo's mentality is still 100% in save mode right now, even though he's going out of his way to, you know, fight, keep going. Now, when we get the name reveal though, Great Explosion God, Murder God, Dynamite, sorry. I realized that some people were like, oh yeah, like the dynamite spelling, I hate it, but the dynamite spelling like this way, I love, blah, blah, blah. It doesn't matter which spelling you go with. The meaning is still kind of the same. And I understand that for some people this name might be kind of mid, but here's the thing. People feel like this name is a little too much of him being an All Might fanboy. And it's kind of is and is not. The idea here is that when you are in construction or building deconstruction, a lot of times, depending on the area you're in, they'll actually use dynamite charges to help collapse parts of the building in. And so what Bakugo is really saying here, and it makes sense when you juxtapose it with his actual name, Katsuki Bakugo, which translates to something like burst to victory, is that he is going to be the thing that blows away, like explodes the foundations of the villains, their villainy. But also he's going to be the hero that's so big, so powerful, so explosive that he blows away the legacy of All Might. That's the idea. He's blowing away the legacy of All Might because he's dynamite. Like he's gonna explode it. Like when you think of that might, when you think of might and power, you're gonna be thinking of dynamite in the future, not thinking of All Might, like the explosive. You're gonna be thinking of that. So it's more over him, like basically saying, "I'm going to surpass All Might. I'm going to be the hero that takes down these foundations. I'm going to be the one that establishes these things. I'm going to be the one that's used like the good destructive force." That's kind of like what he's saying, like an unstoppable destructive force for good, but also the one that's going to like take down All Might. So that's, I'm actually kind of, while there's plenty of people who, for this, the name might be mid, I actually am a fan of Dynamite. I think it works thematically. It's not Ground Zero, but it works in the same ways that Ground Zero did, and that it captures a lot of his ambitions as a character. But instead of Ground Zero being him taking on the name and the responsibility in a negative way, it's more over him taking this on in a positive way, and implying that he's gonna like shine bright and be like useful, whereas the Ground Zero thing would be more dark and reflective of a lot of bad things constantly happening around him. So that's kind of where I think that distinguishing feature comes in, and why I'm like cool with Dynamite still being a thing. Also, I don't know if people realize this, but as far as like on panel character time, Mirio and Bakugo have not actually talked to each other very much. So in fact, that I am aware of, because I cannot think of a single time they've actually talked. This is the only time we've actually seen these two characters talk to each other. So Mirio telling Bakugo he's funny is like a genuine, oh, like, well, I didn't get to talk to you because you remember Bakugo was still on house arrest the day that Mirio was told all the students. So then what, he wasn't, it's not like Bakugo was going to the internship with Deku, so they weren't hanging out on an overall arc during the Culture Festival arc, while Bakugo was doing obstacle courses and obstacle races. That's when Eri and Mirio and Deku were hanging out. So Bakugo was off doing something completely unrelated, not spending time with Mirio. It's not like Mirio was coming in all their classes anymore or anything like that because of the fact that he didn't have his quirk. So there was no actual interactions between Mirio and Bakugo until now. So that's just like a cool little detail to keep in mind, that he's like, oh yeah, like I've actually not interacted with this one, so I like this one too. And that's why he's like, a world without smiles and humor has no bright future. In his mind, like, oh cool, like you have a fun name, like you're gonna inspire people. That's good. Like Mirio already sees the leadership qualities within Bakugo, even if it is him being like kind of laughing at the situation. And then we get to one of the most interesting sections, because the Todoroki family drama is always a fun B-plot to be following through the story, where people have been asking, oh, I just want to see Dabi hug his little brother. Oh, I just want to see Toya give Shoto a big hug. You got your big hug. I mean, sure, he directly told Shoto that nothing about this hug was going to be great. He's not going to have fun. There's only pain. And he's just sitting there like laughing and like trying to. And the thing is that when you read the dialogue, you realize that he was trying to make Shoto like look at Endeavor before he killed him. And I think that's kind of like fascinating that he wanted him to like Shoto, even though he doesn't like have that like major attachment to Endeavor, he still was like fighting and like trying to protect him and like wanted to dignify like his existence to a certain degree. And kind of what I really like about this though is that Dabi, unlike Shoto, will gladly call Endeavor dad, father, etc. Like he's like, I wonder what kind of face dad will make, blah blah blah, because it hurts Endeavor to know that Toya is Dabi. So while Shoto calls him Endeavor to be cold, Dabi calls him dad to be cold and like hurt him. It's very interesting that like both the ways that the sons talk and refer to their dad, one would want like it's like flipped, where you would almost like in NG's heart, you would almost rather have Dabi just simply refer to him as Endeavor and rather just have Shoto call him dad. So I think that's kind of a beautiful thing that like Horikoshi is showing, like the Toya fully embraces his family and uses it as a platform to change and destroy everything, whereas Shoto still somewhat kind of rejects his father and his lineage and wants to like become a great hero, and he's kind of accepted that, but he still has issues with really accepting who Endeavor is and him into his life. And then, of course, we get the meddling teenager Deku getting involved with Black Wit, Froppy style. This isn't really a surprise for most of us. Deku's been copying people's moves for most of the series. This is nothing new. This is actually kind of like the oldest shonen MC trope, if we're being honest. They almost always borrow and take from their allies. In this case, Deku's been literally planning his entire life around taking notes on other heroes. This is just his character in action. This is Deku using the notebook without us having him have to pull out the notebook. That's basically what this is. And of course, Dabi tells him to like back out. But the thing here is that Dabi, like, some people misinterpreted this as Deku trying to talk no jutsu Dabi, and that's not the case. What Deku was doing here is basically saying, you don't get to blame Endeavor for the fact that you decided to go out and kill innocent people. Yeah, Dabi, Endeavor messed up. Endeavor was abusive. Endeavor did a bunch of crappy things, but I do know that he is trying to do better, and he did help me improve as a person. And furthermore, at least he's not consistently sitting there doing more bad things. He's working to fix it, unlike you, who is going out of your way to cause more destruction, to weave agony into society, and to drag others down for your own personal agenda with no regard or remorse for others. Not sincerely. It's just a psychotic revenge trip that just burns through your soul, and I don't need to pretend like that's something worth sympathizing with. And that's something that I think is important, because a lot of times we have characters that, for whatever reason, they decide everybody deserves these giant doses of sympathy. And while Toya's story is sad and pitiable, it is very hurtful. He is not a person that is worth or deserving of the sympathy at this point, because he's gone out of his way to be a problem. He's made it a point to drag hundreds, potentially hundreds of thousands of people and their lives into his family beef. Which, don't get me wrong, Dabi's still probably in my top 10. But that's the reality of who he is, you know. And Deku sees that, and so while Endeavor's freezing in place, which Dabi is the third villain to completely like paralyze Endeavor just by his words and like a little bit of action, Deku's words finally reach him. So this is now Deku shooting 2 for 3 on Todoroki's and getting them to move, and inspiring them to do the right thing. And who knows, maybe we'll get like no, I'm not even gonna humor that, because people will say I'm speaking it into existence. But yeah, all around very fond of this Deku Dabi Endeavor interaction, especially because Endeavor accepts like what Deku says once again, because it's just like back in the sports festival when he told him, you aren't Shoto, he isn't Dabi. He doesn't need to hold himself accountable for what this grown Dabi has done. He does need to hold himself accountable for the pain he caused Dabi as a child, and that's what's going to be handled going forward from here. Machia starts finally breaking free, and that's when Endeavor launches, one big Shoryuken. He's coughing up blood. I think both Endeavor and Machia are down here. I think that's kind of like what we might be exchanging that, where they both might just not have anything left in the tank. Who knows? Maybe Endeavor's going to try to get up anyway. But Endeavor could just genuinely be down because he loses consciousness. If he's down, that's what I think is going to happen. I don't think he's willingly going to sit there. And we finally get confirmation that the sedative did start to work. I know some people don't like the sedative working for some reason, but I'm just going to say that my fondness for the sedative comes down to this. It was calculated. It was based around like his body and his height at his basically his normal size, more or less. He ran through, for like 30 minutes, tearing apart buildings, whatever. That would have accelerated the, his heart rate stuff, maybe got the stuff pumping through his system faster, but he was bigger, so the dosage wouldn't have hit him as hard. But he would have already started, losing it. And then even when he gets to Shigaraki a few chapters ago, when he catches him, he's already like kind of like panting. And then we see even last chapter, I think it was last chapter or the chapter before that, Spinner comments on the fact that Gigantomachia has been panting and is tired for some reason. So we already had this being kind of established that he was gonna end up being exhausted and tired from consuming an undiluted sedative into his body. So it's just a matter of, it didn't happen right away. And I don't think, honestly, what I like about this is that, like, some people feel like, well, it should have happened sooner. I don't agree with that. because I think this is kind of another case of Horikoshi being a bit more realistic, and that he knows that if you can, just because you take a sleeping pill, you don't instantly fall asleep like 5 minutes later. A lot of times you'll take your sleeping, well, unless it's Benadryl, but like you take your sleeping pills for the most part, or whatever medication it is, and then an hour later, or like 30 minutes to an hour later, that's when it finally kicks in, and then that's when you can finally reap the benefits. Usually that's when you finally go to sleep, and so that's kind of the same thing here. Gigantomachia might be a giant monster of a person, but he is still a human being, and I think a lot of people forget that, because let's be real, it's really hard to keep that in mind. But like, yeah, Gigantomachia is still technically a human. So our medication, like our basic physiological needs and functions, are still going to apply to him the same way. I think I'm going to, let's see. Yep. I think I'm going to go ahead and end the video here. I don't think there's much else to cover based on the chapter. Let's see, we already talked about Genis being, did we talk about, well, Genis getting injured, but still managing to stay focused on keeping Machia wrapped up was nice. Same with him going ahead and wrapping up his leg. Overall, though, I'm satisfied with this chapter. I actually forgot to give an actual overall rating. This chapter, for me, is at least a 9 out of 10. I enjoyed the story that was going through. The Aerie stuff all tracked with what I was expecting, in line with my expectations. I didn't expect us to get more than 2 or 3 pages explaining it, so I'm fine with that. Bakugo kind of talking about how when he was on the throes of death, finally getting... Oh, there's something that I did want to talk about that I'm surprised isn't getting more love, because this is meathead stuff. Bakugo is confirmed faster than Gran Torino now with these little explosions. Keep in mind that during Joint Training Arc, Ida was shown to be as fast, or stated to be faster than Gran Torino by Deku, and then we see that as Ida was moving in, Bakugo is further along than he is, coming from the same direction with speed. So he's at least as fast as Ida, who was probably stopped at this point due to the fact that he actually made physical contact with the Nomu, but he's at the same like speed class of that now, which we had already seen that Deku was faster than Gran Torino because he had gone in earlier this arc. So we just have the confirmation, or like the establishment of their growth as characters, them both kind of getting different various feats throughout this arc to like make them really on par with pro heroes now. So when you're looking at especially like the big 3 of 1A, the big 3, you got to start looking at them as candidates for, you know, pro heroes, maybe top 1,000, top 100 for some of these characters easily. Actually, I would say easily Bakugo is probably like a top 100 character as far as like overall verse scaling when you like look at heroes. Same with Mirio, Shoto, Deku, and Nejire. So you got the meathead stuff right there. We got Bakugo and them like definitely being hypersonic here. So I love it. I love the fact that if he's faster than Ida can, like, if he's fast enough that Ida can't necessarily keep up with him, if he's not trying to like focus in on exactly him, then there's a lot of potential in that speed. So yeah, that is the last thing that I'm gonna say about this chapter of My Hero Academia. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope that if you were feeling flustered or a little angry about some of the ways these things were executed in the chapter, that this at least assured you a little bit. That's all I've got to say. I hope I can see you guys Sunday for the Church of MHA. I may be getting involved with another project this month, but we'll see how that goes. So that's really all I got to say. Anaki out.